Hello and welcome. My name is Mark. This is Riffle Shuffle and Roll, and today we're going to be looking at a little game called Gem Rummy. If it's your first time visiting the channel, be sure to hit subscribe and the bell so you're notified about new games every week. Gem Rummy is a rummy family card game for 2 or 3 players. The rules for 3 are a little different than the rules for 2, and I'll detail those at the closing of the video. For Gem Rummy, what separates this game from its inspiration, Gin Rummy, is the introduction of a third card type. So not only does every card have a rank and a suit, but they also have a gem type, which really changes up how the game is played. There's a whole new way to make melds in this game. And there are some other minor differences with how the game is played that sets it apart from its inspiration game, Gin, that makes it worth checking out. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and dive in and see what this game is all about. When you buy Gem Rummy, you will get the Gem Rummy deck, 3 Gem Parts Matrix cards. These are like reference cards to let you know which cards have which gems on them, and 2 6-sided dice. You will need to provide a way to keep score. Determine the dealer at random by cutting the deck with the low card dealing first. Whoever has the highest score at the end of the round will deal the next round. Before shuffling and dealing, remove the 2 joker cards from the deck. One of them will be used during the game. Shuffle and deal 11 cards to each player. Place the rest of the cards face down and turn up the first card to begin the discard pile. The non-dealer rolls the dice to determine the knock number and the diamond number for the round. Place the joker next to the draw pile and then put the dice on top of the joker. We'll talk a little bit more about the knock and diamond numbers in a little bit. First, let's talk about melds. Melds are different ways to group cards together. In Gem Rummy, there are 4 types of melds. The first is called a set. A set has 3 or 4 cards of the same rank. So this would be a set of 3s. The next type of meld is called a run. A run is 3 or more cards in sequential order in the same suit. So here we have the ace, 2, and 3 of diamonds. This would be a run of 3 cards. Please note that the ace is low in this game. So the run Jack, Queen, King, Ace is not legal. Ace cannot be high. This run would end with the king. A stash is kind of like a set of a specific gem. So a stash must have 4 or more cards of the same gem color. Please note that kings are 2 gems, but they can only count for 1 at a time. So I could use this king as an emerald to make the stash of emeralds bigger. As you have noticed, there are many different gems in this game. Gold, emerald, moonstone, pearl, amethyst, ruby, topaz, and sapphire. So not only do we have the 4 suits, but we also have these sub-suits of gemstones. It allows for a lot more flexibility in meld building. This gem matrix tells you which cards consist of which gems. So it's a bit of a guide if you are a player who really wants to sink their teeth into this game and become more familiar with this aspect of it. There is one more special type of meld in Gem Rummy. It is called the Queen's Diamonds. At the beginning of the game, the dice are rolled to determine the knock number and the diamond number. And what this means is that any queen can be melded with the diamond card of this rank. So the player rolled an 8. That makes the 8 of diamonds the card that can be paired up with any one queen. to form the queen's diamond meld. It can only be attached to one queen. If an 11 or 12 is rolled, then it is the jack of diamonds that can be paired with any queen to form the queen's diamond meld. And here we are, back to the setup. So we have each player with 11 cards, their gem parts matrix, the knock and queen's diamond number established, and the first turnip card to start the discard pile. The non-dealer gets to go first. Starting with the non-dealer, they can choose whether they want to pick up the discard or pass. If they pick it up, they add it to their hand, discard a different card, and then the dealer takes their turn and play continues as normal. If they pass, the dealer gets to choose whether they want that card or not. They can pick it up, discard something else, and then play would return to the non-dealer and continue as normal. If both players pass, then the non-dealer begins the game by drawing a card from the draw pile. To begin this game, the non-dealer here at the bottom of the screen is going to begin by drawing the discard. They will add it to their hand, and they have just created a set of threes, and they are going to discard this ace of diamonds. At this point, the non-dealer has a set of threes and a stash of 4 emeralds. Players do not lay their melds down on the table, they keep them in their hand. They have discarded, so their turn ends and play passes to the dealer. The dealer decides to pick up the ace, and they are going to discard the queen. Their turn is ended, and play continues with the opposite player. They choose to draw from the draw pile, and they get the 8 of diamonds. This is the diamond number needed for the queen's diamonds meld. So they're going to go ahead and hold on to that 8, and they're going to discard the 5 of clubs. When discarding, the card goes on top of the discard pile, and only the top card can be drawn. The first way to end the round is to knock. At the beginning of the game, the knock number was rolled with these 2 dice. We rolled an 8. That means that a player can knock once they have 8 points or fewer in Deadwood. Deadwood cards are any cards not attached to a meld. So here are these 2 sevens, the 8 of diamonds, and the jack of diamonds are all Deadwood. And this adds up to way beyond 8 Deadwood points. This player takes their turn and they draw a 7. So here they create a meld of 7. They discard their jack, and now they have only 8 points in Deadwood. They can end the round now if they choose. To knock, you simply knock on the table, and that signals to your opponent that you have just ended the round. When a player knocks, you go to a showdown. Both players will place their melds on the table, and then they will compare Deadwood. Before we do that though, let's talk about the other 2 ways to end the round. Another way to end the round is to go gin. Now let's say this player chose not to knock on their turn. The dealer would take their turn, and then play would pass back to them. They choose to draw again, and they get a 3. They can add this 3 to their meld, their set of 3s, and they can discard their 8 of diamonds. This player has all 11 cards melded. This is called going Jin. The round would end immediately. The player says Jin and lays down all of their cards, and the showdown would commence. There is one more way a player can end the round, and that's called going big Jin. A big Jin is when a player has all 12 cards melded after drawing. So here, the player has a Jin hand, but they decided they're going to try and go for a big Jin. So they draw, and boom. They drew an Emerald King, which allows them to add that to their stash of emeralds. They now have 12 cards melded, and they have just gone big Jin. This player would say out loud, big Jin, lay down all their cards, and again, a showdown would commence. So here we are back to a regular hand with 8 deadwood points. This player chooses to knock and end the round. And now we go to a showdown. A showdown is when each player is going to compare their hands. So let's go ahead and get both players' hands organized by meld and deadwood. So the player who knocked and ended the round has a set of 7s, a set of 3s, and a stash of gems. They have 8 points in deadwood, which was the maximum amount they were allowed to have in order to knock. The non-knocking player has a set of aces and a whole lot of deadwood. Now, what the non-knocking player is allowed to do is lay off. Laying off is when the non-knocker takes any of their deadwood cards and applies them to the melds from the knocker's hand. So we have to look at our deadwood and see if any of those can be added to these melds. This is not good for the non-knocker. They do not have any 7s, they do not have any 3s, and they do not have any emeralds. So they are unable to lay off any of their deadwood. Now they must compare deadwood between the two players. The knocker had 8, so this player is actually able to cancel out that 8 deadwood points. And then the knocker would receive points equal to the remaining deadwood cards. So the knocker would earn 42 points for this round. In Gem Rummy, aces are worth 1 point each. 2s through 10s are worth the number value of a card, and jacks, queens, and kings are worth 10 points each. If the non-knocker would have less deadwood points than the knocker after laying off, then the knocker has just been undercut. In this case, the non-knocker would score 25 points plus the difference in deadwood. In Gem Rummy, there is an opportunity for the knocker to score a minimum of 11 points. If after laying off, the knocker still wins, but they will have earned less than 11 points, they automatically earn 11 points for the round. So the knocker, if they win, cannot earn fewer than 11 points in a round. If a player goes Jin, the opposite player cannot lay off. The player that goes Jin earns 25 points plus points for all of the deadwood their opponent has. If a player gets a big Jin, they earn 35 points plus the value of their opponent's deadwood. Again, their opponent cannot lay off. There is an opportunity for either player to earn bonus points. It's called the Gem Parts Bonus. If, at the end of a round, either player has 1 card from each gem suit, they earn the Gem Parts Bonus. It does not matter if the cards are in melds or if they are cards that could be laid off, or if they are deadwood. If the opponent has all 8 gem parts, they earn the gem part bonus. Please note that the king can only count as 1 gem type. So here it counts as a moonstone because there's already an emerald in the player's hand. The non-knocker earns 8 points for having the gem parts bonus, and the knocker earns 16 points for having the gem parts bonus. If during a round the last 2 cards of the draw pile are reached and neither player has knocked, gone Djinn, or got a big Djinn, the round ends in a draw. Neither player earns any points for that round. The cards are collected, shuffled, and the same player who dealt that round deals again. If the round ends with a player knocking or going Djinn or getting a big Djinn, then the winner of the round collects the cards and deals out. The non-dealer rolls for the new knock and diamond number, and the game continues. Continue playing rounds until one player reaches 110 points or more. That player is the winner. And that's how to play Gem Rummy. Now, it should be noted that players who are undercut can only score for the gem parts bonus. So it's still possible to earn some points if you happen to be undercut as the knocker. Now, as far as the rules for the 3-player game go, the biggest thing that I should mention is that it plays more like Knock Rummy, and it has a staircase discard pile like in 500 Rum. So if a player wishes to pick up a card that is buried in the discard pile, they can, but they also pick up all of the cards on top of it. Of course, this changes their hand count, and personally, I feel like the 3-player game is quite a departure from 2-player Gem Rummy. So if you're interested in that particular variant of the game, you can go to their website down below and check it out. It's cool that they made this game for 2 and 3 players. I think they're different enough to constitute maybe being considered 2 different games. I don't think the 3-player game captures the vibe of the 2-player game, or Gin Rummy for that matter. It becomes a completely different game. Now, I like 500 Rum, also known as Treppenrum, the German variant of that, where the discard pile is staggered and a player has the option to pick up the top card or pick up a card from the middle or anywhere throughout the discard pile. I like that. I think that's an interesting game feature, and it makes for some interesting decisions during gameplay. However, it doesn't really fit in with the overall structure of Gin Rummy or a Knock Rummy, where the idea is to meld your entire hand. So that is something to consider. Now, all in all, I like this game. I really like it. I have played well over 500 games of Gin over the last year and a half, and that was my go-to game for my wife and I. I like how Gem Rummy has taken this really great game and built upon it. I think the most important thing that Gem Rummy has done, the most innovative thing, is introduce that 3rd card type to each card. So you have rank, suit, and gem part. And I don't know all the details for how they decided to distribute the gem parts throughout the deck, but that is such a great idea. And not even just for Gem Rummy, but just as a way to maybe create other games. This idea of a 3rd, or like a subsuit or a 3rd card type to change up how cards are melded. Oh, I love it. I think they go a little too far with some of the rule additions. By the time you go through the rules, there are a lot. Okay, there's already a couple new ways to meld. You got the Queen's Diamond and the Stash. And then you have an 11 card hand. You have an 110 point score instead of 100. You've got all the classic ways of going Djinn or big Djinn, being undercut and laying off. I think all of those little details are okay. I don't think the Queen's Diamond meld is really necessary. I almost feel like that was added just to maybe justify the dice roll at the beginning of the game a little more, which is a fun way to determine the knock number. So I don't think the Queen's Diamond meld is necessary or really adds anything to the game, but that is just my opinion. I think the family that developed this game has played it a lot, and maybe there is a need for that particular meld, or it does something to the game that I haven't seen yet. I almost think that meld will, and the gem parts bonus, where you have one of each gem type in your hand, I think that might come into play more for the 3-player game, but I don't know. I think when we start to get to that point where, okay, not only is there a new way to make the melds, but there's the Queen's Diamonds, there's the gem parts bonus, there's the 11-point minimum, there's all the little exceptions to the rules based on whether or not you've made 11 points. Do you still get the gem parts bonus here? You got your deadwood. I mean, there's a lot. I think there is almost too much for this particular game, and it might be a little overdeveloped. With that said, I think the addition of the gem parts to the game is awesome. I think that is a great idea. It gives just enough more to look out for while you're playing. So if you're someone who loves playing Rummy games and has even spent a lot of time playing Gin Rummy, I think just the addition of the gem parts will make this game totally worth picking up. Now, as far as the packaging and product goes, it still feels like a prototype. This is a family product, and it's a little family project that they are working on, and it's a passion project, and it's really cool. But you can still tell that it's not completely developed. It's very prototypey, and I hope that they continue to develop it and really finesse the artwork, the design direction, and the packaging to make it feel less like a handcrafted game and more like a commercial product. So I would like to see it get there. And along with that, I would like to see it continue to get developed, so it's a little bit more tighter of a game. Maybe get rid of that 3-player variant, especially out of the rule sheet. Maybe have that just as a possible variant, detailed on the website, and just really hone in on the 2-player rules, tightening that game up and making it the best it can be. Well, that is my final thoughts on this particular game. It's definitely a worthy addition to my collection, especially as a huge fan of traditional Rummy games. It's definitely a refreshing take on that classic game, and I'm glad to have it in my library. Well, that is it for now. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep on playing.